Hello and welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to be working on minimum moves to capture the queen from the weekly contest for today. And we're going to skip the easy problem. I think it's pretty straightforward, so we're going to start with this one. So in this one, you have an 8x8 chessboard indexed like this. It's one indexed. And you have 6 integers, where AB denotes the position of the white rook, which is here. CD denotes the position of the white bishop. And EF denotes the position of the black queen. And you're asked to find the minimum number of moves required to capture the black queen, and they tell you how things can move. So a rook can move horizontally or vertically like this, linearly, and it can't jump over a piece. And a bishop moves diagonally, and it also can't jump over a piece. So in this first example, you can capture the queen by going here and then here, or similarly, you can go this way and then this way. Either one works. And in the second example, you can capture the queen right away because the rook can go this way, or the bishop can also go this way. So you have 2 moves. So let's actually show this on a board. I think this will be a little bit easier. So here we have like a bunch of pieces, and we'll look at some states. So basically, no matter what, like once you familiarize yourself to how pieces move, right? So a rook can move this way or this way, and a bishop has to move diagonally. So it can move anywhere like this, like this, like this. It'll stay on its own diagonal. So basically then, from there are, it's kind of simple what you have to do, but it's kind of hard to code. And no matter where the pieces are, you will always be able to take the queen in 2 moves. So it'll always either be 1 or 2. Because if, like, let's say, basically no matter where the rook is, the rook can always capture the queen in 2 moves. So let's say the bishop is on some random square. Like here, it can capture in 1, but let's just put it in some random square. It can always just either go horizontally or vertically to the same row or column as the queen, and then the next move will be a capture. So that always works. No matter where the bishop is, it can block. Like let's say the bishop is here, then the rook can still go like 1, 2. So you can try like whatever you want, and it will always work. So we know that we can capture in 2 moves, and basically this problem is, can we capture in 1 move? So let's take a look at some of the things that let us capture in 1 move. One of the things that let us capture in 1 move is if the bishop and the queen are on the same diagonal and the rook isn't in between them. So for example, here, we can capture in 1 move. We can just go like this. But if we are here, if this rook is in between them, then we can't capture. So if the bishop and the queen are on the same diagonal, and how do you check this? Well, you can just subtract the row and the column from these 2 positions. So like let's say this is decreasing, so this would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, row 6, column 1, and this would be row 1, column 6. So basically you can just subtract the 2 numbers and they should be the same. Like the absolute value difference should be the same, because if you think about it, to go from the bishop to the queen, you move in some direction, and then you move horizontally some spaces, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you move vertically the same amount of spaces. So you can just take the horizontal and the vertical difference between the 2 locations, and if they are equal, then they are all on the same diagonal. Once you know they're on the same diagonal, you basically, the easiest thing I found, instead of trying to look for like loopholes, is just traverse every single square on the diagonal. So just figure out like, which way am I going? Am I going like, and you can go in a bunch of different directions. Like you can go up and to the left, up and to the right, down and to the left, and so on, right? So you basically just figure out like which way you're traversing based on where the pieces are located. And then you just literally have a while loop where you just, so let's say they are here. You start at the bishop, and then you just go traverse up to the queen. So you like go here, 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 until you hit the queen. And if you never hit the rook, then you can capture in 1 move. So that's how you do that. Like you check, are they on the same diagonally by, like I said, the horizontal and vertical difference has to be the same. And then you just traverse, because there's a bunch of edge cases if you don't. Like if you just check if they're on the same diagonal, maybe you're like, oh, I'll just check if the rook is on the same diagonal stuff. It gets kind of tricky because you get things like this, where like the rook and the queen are on a diagonal, but they're not on the same diagonal. And you can have things like this as well, where they are on the same diagonal, but it's also kind of weird. So let me show you that. For some reason, it's not letting me put it. There we go. So yeah, something like this. Like they are on the same diagonal, but you can still capture. So the easiest thing to do is just manually traverse, start here, go here, 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 here. So that's one thing, is are the bishop and the queen on the same diagonal? And if there's nothing in between them, then you can capture in 1 move. The other things that you can check for is if the, let me put it over here. Hopefully it lets me actually move it. There we go. So the other thing you want to check for is the queen and the rook on either the same row or the same column? And you can check that as well, right? Just by checking their row and their column. If they are on the same row and column, you do the same thing. You traverse from the rook to the queen. You just figure out like which are they, if they're on the same row. You either have to traverse left or right, depending on where they are, right? So you just figure that out based on the distances. And basically, you'll always be able to take in one move unless the bishop is in between them. So it's the same kind of idea, right? You just check, are the queen and the rook in the same row or column? You traverse, so you start here, you go here, 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 until you hit the queen. And because this is an 8x8, it's just a while loop of like eight squares, which is fine. And then if you don't hit the bishop, then you can take in one move. So like, let's say the bishop is anywhere other than this path, you can take in one move here. Similarly, if they are here, you would traverse up. You know, so you just figure out like, are you on the same row? Are you on the same column? Do I need to traverse? Do I need to traverse up or down? And that's basically the toughest part of the problem, is just figuring out like, how do I traverse and like which direction? So you can always take in one move unless, once again, the bishop is blocking. So this is basically what you need to do. So we can write this down. So basically, check if bishop and queen on same diagonal. If yes, check if rook in between them by traversing bishop to queen. And then you have to check. So if yes, that means that the rook is in between them. So I didn't talk about this. So if the rook is in between them, then it takes two moves, right? So like, let's say the bishop is here, the queen is here, and this is here. If there's ever a blocking situation, like I said, the rook can always take in two moves. And you can also take, if the rook is blocking, you can also just like move it out of the way and take like this. So like I said, no matter what, you will always take in one or two moves. So if the rook is blocking, it will be two moves. And similarly, if the bishop is blocking, no matter where the bishop is, you can always get there in two moves, right? So you can always, like, let's say we're blocked here, we can just go like here and then here. Actually, it wouldn't be that. It would be, if the bishop is blocking the rook, then the bishop moves out of the way and the rook takes the queen. So that's the move you would want to make. So if there's a piece blocking, it would take two moves. You just take the piece that's blocking, move it out of the way, and then you have a take. Or like this, same thing, you move it out of the way and then you have a take. Or if they're just not on the same row or anything, then you can always just move your rook to line up with the queen, and then you can take it on the next move. So that's what we're going to do. So if yes, check, and if rook blocking, return 2. Return 2, else 1. Then same thing for the rook and the queen. So check if rook and queen are on same row or column. If yes, traverse. If bishop blocking, return 2, else return 1. And if neither of these things happen, then you just want to return 2 as a default, because that means that you can't take in one move, because in order to take in one move, the bishop and the queen have to be in the same diagonal, or the rook and the queen have to be in the same row or column. Otherwise, you would just move your rook twice, and you can always take in 2 moves. That's basically it. So we can look at the code. So here it is. It's just a bunch of, like I said, it's just a bunch of like comparisons. So that's the kind of confusing part. And the easiest way is to do a traversal. So we just check here if they are on the same diagonal, if the bishop and the queen are, by just checking the horizontal and vertical difference. They have to be the same. Then we figure out where to traverse row-wise, left or right, based on where the rows are of the bishop and the queen. Then we have to figure out where we traverse column-wise, based on where the bishop and the queen are as well. And then we literally just do a manual traversal up until we hit the queen from the bishop. And if we ever hit the rook in that path, we will return 2, and if we don't, we'll return 1. Same thing for the rook and the queen. This is basically the same code. You check if they're in the same row by the row being the same. And then if the row is the same, you figure out where to traverse vertically on the column. Do I traverse up or down? Once you figure that out, same thing. You start at the rook, and you traverse all the way up until the queen. And if you hit the bishop, then you return 2 because it's blocking. If not, you return 1. And same thing if the rook and the queen are on the same column. So this queen. You just traverse from the rook. If they're on the same column, then you'd want to traverse horizontally. And then you just make sure you can hit, basically. And so that's basically what you do. You just check if things are in the same column. If they are, you traverse from one to the other. If there's blocking, you return 2, otherwise you return 1. If none of these things happen, then you just return 2 as a default. So I think it does help if you know how chess works, that you can figure out that you can always take in 2 moves. But if you haven't played chess, it's a little bit trickier because like it's a little less intuitive to figure that out, but not so bad. And the main thing is just the logic. You can probably do this without having loops, but like I said, because this is only an 8x8 grid, like you will only loop 8 times, which is like O of 1. So it's still pretty fast. And yeah, so for the time here, it will be technically, well, it tells you it's 8x8. So technically, I'll just say, because 8 is constant, I'll just say it's O of 1. And space, also O of 1. Because it's only 8x8 grid, right? So it can't take that long. It's just a while loop of 8. And yeah, it's all going to be all for this one. So hopefully you liked it. Kind of cool problem, kind of annoying to be honest, with all the edge cases. Like I tried doing it before without actually traversing, and there were just like a million edge cases. So I was like, yeah, I think it's easier to traverse instead of like looking at all the edge cases. Because there's a bunch of things where like you are on the same diagonal as the queen, or you're blocking, or you're on different sides, or whatever. So yeah, I think that's the easiest way to do it. So hopefully you liked it, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.